Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Rebel Retirement. We all know that there's a lot more to retirement than when we should take our Social Security and how much money we have saved and when we should retire. So if you are retired or thinking about retirement, I think this video is for you because retirement is a time of great change. And that's what I want to talk about today, because I personally think if we stifle the adventure, if we refuse to change, I'm going to tell you, I need to practice what I preach. And I need to remind myself from time to time to embrace change. And I am going through a transitional period right now in my own life. So, this video today is to uh, hopefully inspire you as well as to remind me that I need to embrace change. So in today's video, I have 4 tips that I use that I hope will be helpful to you. Again, I want to say welcome back to Rebel Retirement, where we talk about all things retirement and how you can determine what you value through a just-in-time retirement mindset. So let's get started. I really believe that if we are resistant to change, that we can stifle our retirement adventure. And by embracing change and going with the flow, it can turn into an exciting adventure, a new and exciting chapter of our lives, even into old age. Retirement isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. So with that said, here are my 4 ideas, my 4 tips that I use to remind myself to embrace change. Number 1, don't become a stereotype. Instead of being the old version of our former selves, I think it's a good idea if we try to surprise everyone, including ourselves, and let go of whatever labels we might have had prior to retirement. I think it's time for us to rediscover ourselves and live on our own terms and, maybe reject the stereotypes of what we think retirement should be or how old people should be or how aging is. So I think it's really a good idea to reevaluate ourselves and not become a stereotype. I remember talking to a lady across the street when we first moved to Montana. She was up in her 80s and I was in my 50s. And she was just such a joy to talk to. She didn't talk about all of those old people things like going to doctor's visits and what ache and pain she had and or the latest propaganda that was on the news. She was really interesting. She told me about her life experiences, what was going on with her at present. She did give me some of her political views, which I found out we differed, but that was okay. The point is she wasn't stuck in that mindset of being boring and just talking about the same old things that you hear everybody talk about. So yeah, it's really great to share news and family news and let everybody know what's happening. So I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that we should just neglect telling people, if somebody's, going into the hospital or somebody's having a baby or, somebody's ill. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about just falling into that trap of being repetitious and trite. And, maybe this is a time that we need to come out of our shells rather, and, be true to ourselves and speak frankly. I mean, if we're not going to do it now, I don't know when we will. Number 2. So my number 2 tip is to step out of our comfort zones. And, I'm not saying that you have to climb Everest or go skydiving to step out of your comfort zone. If you want to do that, that's fine. I encourage you to do that. But what I mean by stepping out of your comfort zone is really just to embrace the adventure in and of itself, whether you're learning a new skill, speaking an unpopular truth. It's getting comfortable with the discomfort. Needless to say, we don't have forever. Tomorrow isn't guaranteed. And I heard somebody say that if you think each and every day as your last day, that it really helps you to live your life to the fullest. This is what I try to do. I sit down and identify some of the uncomfortable spots that I've been wanting to tackle. And everybody's heard about the baby steps. So it's taking baby steps to conquer the fear and the discomfort. And if you take one small step a day. And with that, I think, we can find newfound enthusiasm for life. And again, when you take those baby steps, they tell us that we should be rewarding ourselves for taking action. So let's all stand up and go for it, because I think we can do it. And, frankly, making these videos are getting out of my comfort zone. So even though I've been doing it for a long time, it's still something that, when I get in front of the camera, it's still something that I need to overcome. And so anyway, try to get out of your comfort zone. So if there's something you've done that stepped out of your comfort zone, please let me know in the comments, because I could really use your support. My tip number 3, learn to live in the flow. Retirement isn't meant to be a struggle. And if we are struggling every day with retirement, we haven't learned to live in the flow, because struggling is the opposite of being in the flow. And if we're trying to struggle against circumstances that we can't change, I think that's what I'm trying to do at present, is struggling against a circumstance that I can't change. It's really a waste of energy. And so I think that if we accept the situations as they arise and we adapt to them, in being resilient, and if the situation is unpleasant, we need to adapt to that and try to recover more quickly, because we're not helping ourselves or anybody else around us if we aren't accepting those circumstances and, looking for the positive. So I've said this before, I've written articles about this, and I always say to look through the eyes of a child and appreciate the small wonders. And I think children have so much to offer and demonstrate, and we can learn from them. So when you're in the flow, retirement is going to bring joy and adventure. So that's my tip number 3. Tip number 4, finding peace and change. Emerson said, nobody can bring you peace but yourself. And I can tell you from my own personal experience that that is very true. If we have a poor attitude, our inner peace will evade us. And that's because our outer world reflects our inner world. And if we create a cycle of conflict of our own doing, if we keep running those constant scripts of negative dialogue, if we're always having that stream of dialogue in our heads that, well, this isn't right, this is going wrong, I don't expect, this to go right, I'm not lucky, things always happen to me. If we're doing that with that stream of negative dialogue, that just doesn't hurt anybody else except ourselves. Finding peace is exceedingly freeing, but it does require some mental discipline. And if you're having some negative thoughts about the changes in your life, try to step back and observe your thoughts. So try to find some measures that help to clear your mind. And then if you can make them a habit, that's really good. A lot of people find journaling to be their answer. I personally am not a big journal person, although I do from time to time try to keep record of things from day to day. But I really like to practice meditation and yoga to calm my mind and find inner peace. I always say that my yoga practices are part of what keeps me sane. So in conclusion, here are my final thoughts. Retirement is a time of great change. Let go of stereotypes and perceived notions about retirement and aging. Don't resist growth and opportunity. Release your fear and step out of your comfort zone. Accept your circumstances, but have high expectations. The key to dealing with retirement change is all about attitude. Look at the limitless possibilities for a new and exciting adventure. I hope you found these tips helpful. Please drop me a comment below. Let me know if you're working on any challenges of embracing change, or what you've done to step out of your comfort zone, or what you'd like to do to step out of your comfort zone. So please drop me a comment below, and don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell for more outside the box retirement ideas. Until next time, stay curious, stay healthy, and trust your retirement journey. I'm Marlene with Rebel Retirement. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.